Okay, welcome everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Toronto Spirit Society. Always a pleasure to be here with you all who are here face to face, and also those who are watching us through the internet. Be very welcome. And we have Otto as our digital medium today, so we encourage you to participate with your comments and questions at the end. We continue with our studies of the Gospel in light of Spiritism. And the theme of the month, August and also July, has been the same, where we have been studying the parables of Jesus, and we call that In Jesus' Arms. And when we are studying the parables and reflecting on his teachings and messages, that's how we feel, because we come here on Sundays with our challenges, with our struggles, with our doubts, with our problems, and we really need a message of consolation, a message that encourages us to move on with our challenges, right? Move on with our life, and those challenges we learn that they are here to make us better. Today is no different. We have a lecture about the parables of talent, and the title of the lecture is What Have You Done With Your Talent? We will see what talent is this, because very often we feel we have no talent. But Joyce will tell us about it. But before we get that, we'll have our dear friend Elisangela, who will come and deliver the initial reading and the initial prayer shortly after. We'll have Joyce with the lecture and the healing passes at the very end. Elisangela.
Good morning, everyone. The reading today is Happy Life from Divaldo Pereira Franco by Joana de Angelis. Do not be too ambitious. Do not let your reach exceed your grasp, tells a popular saying. Exaggerated ambition maddens when it does not make you unhappy before. Fight for what is necessary, sharing what you do not need, which is certainly needed by others. Dear Lord, in the name of Jesus, please bless all of us, incarnated, disincarnated, virtual, each one of us. Please help and inspire our speaker today to bring us the necessary understanding and the teachings left by Jesus to improve and better our lives. So be it. Please, Joyce.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning for those that's following us through the internet. So I'm so happy to be here today, especially because it's been, I don't even know when was last time I was here doing a lecture, but definitely more than 2 years. Because all the circumstances of my life, and actually, oh my God, probably, maybe around 3 years or so. Because of my son, and then my work, and then I was preparing for exams, board exams, and like multiple excuses that kind of make me be a little away or far away from the activities here at TSS. And I miss this a lot because by doing this lecture again, I kind of remember how good it is to do this work, because in some way it's a great opportunity to learn, right? And like it kind of forced me, because also though for the last 2 or 3 years, I was not reading a lot about Spiritism. I was not putting myself like in the position to learn. And it was very good to dedicate a few hours doing that, and it was a very learning experience, and I hope I can share a little bit of what I learned with you guys today. So that my lecture starts with that question: what have you done with your talent? Like Marcos said, what happened is that many of us when we read about this parable, we kind of think, oh, but I don't see any talent on me. I'm not a great musician. I'm not a great singer. I'm not because we tend to see those things as a talent, right? And obviously they are, but or I don't see myself doing anything special that I can say, oh, I have a talent. But we're gonna see that actually Jesus uses this word shown as a talent, but doesn't necessarily is something that make you special, because actually you can be special every day if you open your eyes and your heart to see all the opportunities that you have every day in life to do something good, and those are the talents. Okay, so we're gonna see a little bit more about it. So here is the parable. So we're gonna quickly read it, and just like I'm sure most of you, if not everyone, is familiar with this parable. So again, it will be like a man. Oh, and by the way, the parable is on Matthew chapter 25. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servant and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more talents. So also the one with the 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who had received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. So I want to know now what you have done with your talents. The man who had received the 5 talents brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me 5 talents. See, I worked and I'm giving you back 2 times more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. And we're going to see that in each parable of Jesus, each word counts. Each word has a meaning. So nothing is said just like by nothing. Then the man with the 2 talents also came and said, Masters, you entrusted me 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more. The master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. So if you realize here, Jesus responded the same way for the 2 previous servants, right? He was not expecting, by giving a different amount of talents to each, he was not expecting that at the end they will achieve the same level. But he was expecting that they would do something with their talents and bring in return a little bit more. So the second guy came back with 4 talents and he received 2. He didn't come back with the 10 talents that the first guy have done before. But what was important for Jesus and actually for God, because the master here, it's a representation of God in Jesus' parable. What was important for God is that you went there, you worked, and you were able to multiply your talent. So I will give you the same reward. Then the man who had received the 1 talent came and said, Master, I knew that you were a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your talent in the ground. See, here's back what belongs to you. And then the master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I return I would have received at least some interest. Take the talent from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For everyone who has will be given more, he will have in abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has, will be taken away from him. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So it sounds very hard at the end, right? But we will understand that actually also through the parables, everything is like symbolic, right? I don't want you to take the wrong message that God is very like that punishing guy that, oh, if you did it wrong, I will throw it away. But we will get to that message as well. So first of all, let's start with this question. Why Jesus spoke with parables? So I went to the Merriam-Webster dictionary just to get the meaning of the word parables, and it says in that dictionary that parables is a short story that teaches a moral or spiritual lessons, right? And actually, when we think back in the time of Jesus, more than 2,000 years ago, such a bright and enlightened spirit as Jesus came and decided to incarnate between all that community, and many of us probably were there at that time. It was like, if we think that we still have a lot to progress nowadays, can you imagine back in 2,000 years, right? So it was a very primitive people and community. So if Jesus decided to teach by clearly exposing the message, that would be too much for that people in that time. They would never be able to understand. Even us today struggles a lot to understand his message, right? So that's why he used parables, because a light for truly shine, they cannot obfuscate, right? So if he and Jesus was very smart and brilliant, right? So he knew that his idea and his intention was not to humiliate. He wants to truly show the message, and the best way was through parables, because what happens that as that symbolic passage has multiple interpretation. So you will understand what you are prepared to. So you never feel very bad by learning through parables, right? And that's exactly what happened to us even nowadays. Every time I read one parable, you can kind of have a different understanding. Depends on how you are at that moment and your level of understanding and evolution and ability to grasp the message. So, and that's why if you see many lectures about this parable, probably at each lecture you see is going to have a different meaning, give you a different kind of message, because there is not only one message behind those words. And as I said before, each word has a meaning, right? So if you really go deep and study the parables of Jesus, there's so much to learn that every time, like, you can kind of have a different understanding. So pretty much that's the idea there. So each time you read, you can have a different understanding. So let's go and go deeper in this parable of the talents. So you can kind of see yourself when you study and read more about this parable. You can kind of see yourself so many times as the third servant that you cannot even imagine. So if you think what exactly that third servant did. So he received a talent. In that passage was represented by money, like a coin, let's say. And there are two ways to understand what he did. You can think, oh, he just decided to omit and say, okay, I will stay on my comfort zone. I will not do any step ahead, because it's easier, right? The only thing that I need to do is just not to do anything bad, right? So the worst thing that I want to do is to face my master again and having empty hands to return to him. So I don't want to do anything bad, and that us in many times, right? We think that during daily lives, the only thing that we need to do to achieve the heaven is not to do anything bad. I will not kill anyone. I will not take in like any advantage of anyone. I'm just going to be a normal person, go to my work and do my job at home, and that's it. Then at the end, when I pass away, I'm sure I'm going to go to heaven, right? But that parable exactly will tell us that that is not enough. That's not what God wants from us, right? Because as I said, every day you have so many opportunities. What are you doing with those? So we see that servant as someone that just choose for omission because it's a lot easier. It's we feel comfortable in the position you are. You don't need to challenge yourself, and at the end, it's fair. We just return the money back, the same amount of money. Or the other way, you can put yourself as a victim, and you're gonna see that we do that all the time, and I'm sure all of us does that. That servant, once he received just that coin, what the other possibility that he could do? Instead of think, okay, I received this coin, I will work hard and multiply this. No, I look at my side and said, oh, why the master gave 5 coins to that person and 2 coins to the other one? Why I received just 1, right? Why? And then when we translate this to our lives, is that what we do every day, right? Oh, why I don't like my hair? Why I don't have a straight hair? It's so much beautiful. Like even simple things like that. Oh, why I don't have a work like that? I don't have a house like that. I don't have a car like that one. So God probably doesn't love me as much. And then you transfer that in even larger proportion, right? When you think, oh, I suffer too much. I have all this. I have a work, but I hate my work and it's so bad, but I cannot. I have to stay there because that's my only work, and my boss and my husband and my kids. It's such a hard, difficult kids. Why? And then you look at your neighbor, you always see them very happy, right? Because also we see them over Facebook and all those things. We always see everyone happy, right? And then we keep asking ourselves, oh, why? It seems that just me. I'm just the one suffering all the time. And then if you analyze, it's a lot easier to put yourself to react on that way as well. But then have you ever asked yourself, oh, what I've done? Why I'm feeling that way? It's like I was thinking, I just moved to another house and the lawn of my neighbors are so beautiful. And, it's truly what people say, oh, the lawn of your neighbor is always more green. And that is really true. They are a lot more beautiful than mine. But then I start to think, why? And I look, they put those sprinkles, those things. So every day around 6 a.m., that's going to go out and irrigate everything, right? Mine doesn't have that. I'm just counting on God, please give some rain. And so how come I want my lawn to be as beautiful as those ones if I'm not doing anything? Right? So, and that is exactly, like, it's a silly, simple thing, but that's exactly what happens every day when we complain about a situation. Most of the time, if you analyze, what are you doing? Right? Are you doing something to make it different? Are you doing, probably with the resource you have, are you doing something to change that situation? Probably not. Probably you are just like, complaining and feel that you are inferior or you are not seen by God the same way. You are not, God doesn't love you the same way. And then it's easier once you get into that route, it's a spiral, right? Like you are more like deeping yourself more and more, and kind of in some way digging more and more the hole to put your talent, and hiding more and more your talent there. And then once it's time for you to face the master, you'll have empty hands. Okay. If you look a correlation that I do. If we can kind of connect a little bit this parable with the parable of the prodigal son. When you look at that parable, you see a son that received all talents, right? Like a lot more than anyone else. And he received all that, even like he asked his father, right, to get all the money that he it would be right for him, even before his father passed away. And the father said, okay. And the father is like God, right? A representation of God at that time, at that parable. Gave him all the money. He went out. He spent all the money without thinking. And when he was totally empty because of the multiple mistakes that he have done, he decided to come back, right? And he think that he's in some way he learned so much, he realized so much mistakes he have done. He's so frustrated, but he decided to come back and face his father, which is the master, and say, okay, I will come back and I will apologize. And I will say, like, I can work even as a servant for my father. I don't deserve anything else. And I will come back and see. And he came back what the father did. The father didn't punish him. The father actually gave a party, a celebration to receive him, right? And if you compare that son with the servants here, what's the difference between him and the third servant? He was not afraid to act. He did mistake. All his action was lots of mistakes, but he did something. He did not hide his talent and just omit and cross his fingers and say, okay, I will be back and just return what I've done. That's what I'm trying to tell you, that at the end, the master wants just some action from you. Okay? Even if you come back with a negative balance, but that's the way you learn. And he will receive you with an open heart, with an open arms, and will give you the chance to redo it. Okay? So, I found so interesting when I kind of did that connection, and that's exactly like important point of this parable is that and that's what we do, like all of us do all the time, right? We just cross our arms and do nothing. We either omit or we either victimize ourselves. So we can also connect this parable with what is happening with our planet. That is the planetary transition. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. There are many spirits books nowadays that talk about the planetary transition. And once we understand Spiritism, it makes sense to understand and believe on the planetary transition, right? Because Spiritism actually tells us about the progression of all of us. We're gonna get to a point that we're gonna get we're gonna be perfect. Will take long time, but we'll get there. So if we as spirits are progressing, for sure the planet is progressing, right? And the planet Earth is not different from anywhere else. We are in progression. Sometimes it's hard to believe, especially when we see the news and we see like some terrible things still happening nowadays. But yes, we are progressing, and those things are happening for a purpose, and the planet is progressing. And when we see this parable, is exactly like that with the third servant. It's a question: are you ready to progress with Jesus? Because if you receive your opportunity and you hear that and you don't use it, you are not ready. So if you don't take the opportunity that you have right now and do something with that, probably once you have another chance to go back to the spiritual world, you may not have a chance to return to this planet, because the planet is progressing. There will be some time that those who are not taking the advantage and progressing with the planet will not have a chance to return in this planet. We'll need to go to another school that will probably will be harder and more painful. We'll get there, but will be a lot slower and harder, right? So a message that we can get from this as well is that the faith is useless if you don't have action, if you don't turn into action, right? And part of that action, and actually it's not only part of that action, but the first step of that action is exactly on you, is your inner transformation. So the parable of talent asks you exactly like that. If you are the third servant, you are not looking into yourself and start to do your own transformation. You are not looking to all opportunities that have. It might be painful, it's challenging, it's difficult, but you get that opportunity every day, and you might just hiding that, digging a hole, put that there because it's a lot more comfortable, and not doing anything about that, right? And when it's time to face the master again, he will ask you, what have you done with your talent? So here, as a summary, we see that the first servant, he worked and he was able to multiply his talents. The same thing with the second servant. And as I said before, the master didn't want them to be at the same level. If you remember in the passage, it says the master gave a certain number of talents according to each one level, right? So you will receive the talents, or in other ways, you will receive the opportunities in life according to your ability to deal with those. So it's the same thing of the challenges that you receive, like facing a disease in a relative, in a closing relative, or facing a difficulty at work, or any difficulties in life. They come to you because you are ready to face them, right? And at the end, what God wants is to shake you. Those opportunities is just a way to shake you and say, so what are you going to do now? Okay, and at the end, he just wants you to do some action. He doesn't want the guy that received 2 talents to be at the same level that the guy that received 5 talents. But he wants to see them working and doing something good, or at least trying, right? So when we see the third servant, our first reaction as naive and ignorant people that we all are, we are still a little bit ignorant, is that, oh, but how come the master is so mad on him? Because he returned the same amount. So it's fair, right? You gave me something, I return the same thing for you. But actually, when you reflect with the knowledge that we already acquired, because just by being here, all of us already acquired some knowledge. If you kind of reflect on the passage, you think, actually, that is not fair. That is actually selfishness, right? Because exactly what Jesus wants from us is, if you receive something, you should return 2 times more, right? If you just return the same, and that is for everything in life, right? If you received something good, it's for you to go and return 2 times more than what you receive. Just return the same amount. You are not you are just thinking your selfishness is just telling you, okay, just that, I got just this. If I return this, that's enough. I'm okay. I'm okay with my conscience, and that's good. But it's actually a result of the selfishness that all of us carry. And that is for everything that you receive in life, right? And if you realize that, that is always represent the divine justice, right? Because what the love that God wants from us, the rationale behind this is the multiplication. He is loving us for us to multiply that love. And the way we multiply that love is by sharing good and working and helping and looking around us for any opportunities that we have in life, right? And again, remember, you will be asked. There will be a time that will be asked, what have you done with your talents? So it's never too late to wake up and think, okay, I will think today. So maybe it's an exercise that you can do every day, like that exercise that once you go to bed and you think, oh, how was my day? What I could have done better. So if you do that every day, you kind of will ask myself, what I've done with my talents today? What are opportunities that I got today? And sometimes what happens is that we just don't open our eyes to see those opportunities. Sometimes it's just to listen a friend that is suffering. Sometimes it's just to help someone in need. It can be small things like that, or even at your home, to have a better understanding and helping. Like, for example, your partner come from work very stressed out and came at work yelling from work and at home and yelling and very frustrated about things at work, and it's kind of translating the stress from work into his action at home. And you can easily kind of contaminate yourself and get into that mode and escalate, and then at the end you and your partner are having a fight because of something from outside. Or you can have an understanding and be the person to help him because he's in need for help at that moment, and have some peace and return him with love, and slowly he will settle down and will get into a better harmony at home, and things will be better, right? So those type of things. So sometimes it's something very simple, but it's another opportunity that you have. And sometimes it's just easy for us like to cross our arms and say, okay, he's getting at home and it's yelling, so that's why I yelled back, and escalate things, right? Something that easily happen in everyone's lives. So life will always respond to your choices, to your attitude. So if you decide not to make a choice, not to do an action, the life will do for you, and it can be a lot more painful. So one example is when you are at work, you don't like your work. You go every day, wake up and I have to go to this work. It's so bad. I don't like my co-workers. I don't like my boss. I don't like the environment. I hate what I'm doing. But you choose for the omission because it's easier, it's comfort. So you don't move a step to try to change your work. Like you always have opportunities, but you decide, no, if I go back to college, it's too much hard. I have to study, and I will still have to work because I need to pay my bills. So I will have to study overnight, and I have kids, and it's too much work. So I not have a chance to put some energy on that, because like if you aim to get a better job, you need to qualify yourself, right? But it's hard, right? So it's a lot easier just to stay complaining of your job, but stay on that job. So what will happen? You don't do any action, right? You just stay complaining. What happened next year? The company that you work in have some problems, financial problems, and they fire you. And now you are crying and complaining that you lost the job that you hated, right? So how many times we see that? All the time. And now you are forced to do that step and that action that you didn't do in the past, but in a lot more painful way, right? Because it will be a lot easier if you by yourself have made the choice of go back to school or whatever, search for new jobs, try to qualify yourself. If you want to be like, it's easier just to look your neighbors, say, oh, they have, it's a great work that they have. How come I'm not there, right? Probably God doesn't love me and keep me in this shitty work, but you don't do anything else, right? For us as immigrant, many of us here are immigrant. How many people we know from Brazil, especially with, unfortunately, all the troubles that we are having there, that probably look at us and said, oh, look, they are in Canada now. I would like to be there. Oh, no, let's see. And then sometimes they even get in touch with me and said, oh, how it is? Like, I'm a physician, right? So they said, oh, how it is? I mean, I just go there, and how can I validate my diploma there? Sounds easy, right? I go, I have a great job here in Brazil, so I have lots of experience, so I just go there, do a test, and that's it. Easy, right? They look at me, they maybe feel jealous or something, So, but they have no idea what I've done to be where I am. So it's like no one wants to do that action, right? It's just easy to look around, complain about your situation there. You don't do anything to make your situation better. You complain, and that's happened unfortunately a lot in Brazil, that many people complain a lot, but they do many corruptions, small corruptions inside their environment, right? So they just complain, but they don't do anything to make their lives better, either there or even if they want to choose to move, but they have no idea how much work on that. It's easier to see things in a simple way, right? So, but that's what I mean. If you don't make the choice and use your talents and multiply your talents, the life will do for you in a very hard way. Either in this life or in future lives, that will happen. Okay? So, none of us are in control of the future. We are just manager of our talents. We don't know when we're going to receive the talents. We don't know when they're going to be taken away. So we better do a good use of them when you got them. When you see them in your hands, which means the opportunities that you have, get them and multiply them. Make something with them, right? So, and how we do that? Faith and love. That's all, like, that's the message that Jesus brought to us, right? Put faith and love in whatever you do, that you'll be able to do something with your talent. And always remember that the master doesn't want you to return with a positive balance. It will be great if you do that. But it's better to return with something or even a negative balance, but being able to act and do something. Action, that's what he wants. Attitude, that's what he wants from us, right? So here I have a few examples of people like that either had some frustrations in life and at the end they are all succeed. So kind of tell us that easily we could be one of them in those situations, and we would decide to hide our talent and then nothing would happen, right? And we see how many good things that like those guys brought to us in some way. So I don't know if you know, but Thomas Edison, before he was able to create the lamp, he failed. I mean, here it says 999 times, but actually they believe it was thousands and thousands times. He failed before he successfully attempted. And how many of us probably in maybe the 10th attempt to say, okay, forget about this. It's why I'm still doing this, right? But actually, look at his attitude. When he was asked about that so many times he failed, said, well, I didn't fail. Each time I just showed a way that doesn't work, right? So each time it didn't work, I use it to say I discovered a new way of how not to invent the lamp. That's a great attitude, right? I found this amazing. So, and that's actually the attitude that the master wants from us, right? So every time that you have a frustration, that you have something turn out not in the way you want, it's kind of you to reflect what I can learn from this. There's always something you can learn from that, right? Instead of just putting yourself as a victim, because you could do that. Oh my God, like, it's so much work. I spent hours and hours and not getting a result. Oh God, please help me. You're not helping me, right? But another way, you can also put yourself as a victim or do as Thomas Edison did. See, like having a different view of that failure, right? Albert Einstein had very interesting things. Many of you probably know that he didn't have the best childhood. In fact, many people thought he was just a dude. He never spoke for the first 3 years of his life. And throughout elementary schools, many of his teachers thought that he was lazy and wouldn't make anything of himself. He always received good marks, but his head was in the clouds, conjuring up abstract questions that people couldn't understand. But he kept thinking. Thank God he kept that, right? Persistence. Well, he eventually developed the theory of relativity, which many of us still can't wrap our heads around. I'm one of those. Right? So it's such a genius, right, guy? And if he decided to hide his talent because all the circumstances in life that was not supporting you, we wouldn't have all the discoveries, like all the things that he brought to help the understanding of physics, right? And he's one of his quotes: "The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it." Who are those people? Are the third servant, right? It's exactly the third servant. So I saw this movie and I was fascinated about this guy. I didn't know that before this movie. The movie is called Hacksaw. If you guys didn't watch, I highly recommend. There's some violence because it's about the war, but it's beautiful. And I was not aware about this guy. So this guy, he was he was living in a very rural and small town, just doing farm things. He was very ignorant in he didn't have any access to education, pretty much. A very country guy, and everyone on his town was recruited for the army. And then he started to feel that, oh, I have to do something. I have to list myself and I have to present to the army because, everyone is fighting for us, losing their lives. I will not stay here and omit. He could do that. He could have done that, right? He could just cross his arms and said, okay, I'm comfortable here. Why am I going to go to the war? But he had one thing. He wanted to go to the war, but he didn't want even to touch a gun. So he looked around and he saw, oh, they might need me because they need some people to save lives, right? To work as a paramedic. He had no education, so he couldn't work as a physician, but he couldn't work as a paramedic to help in the hospitals or all those, to assist the doctors. So he thought, oh, I could do that. I could go to the war. I don't need to fight, to shoot anyone. I don't need to touch a gun. I will go there to help the doctors, to treat the wounded people, like the wounded soldiers, right? And he decided to do that, and it was so challenging for him, and the movies illustrated that very well. When that training part, before they are sent into the war field, they have to go through a training, right? And there's it's the same as for those here who served army in Brazil, lots of exercise, and there's and obviously you need to take your gun and you need to shoot, and you need all those things about with the guns as well. And since the beginning he said, I will not touch a gun. And was everyone, all the people, all his colleagues, everyone were against him. How come you're gonna go there and put our lives in risk and not fight with us and not taking a gun with us? We're not how come we will be there to protect you and you will not protect us because if you don't have a gun? And everyone would put a lot of pressure for him to give up and ask him, okay, it's better you to give up. If you don't want to touch a gun, give up. You don't you are useless for us. That's exactly the word. You are useless for us. And after fighting a lot, and the movie showed that he was able to go. And what happened in that very Hacksaw Ridge was one of more bloody battles that happened there. He was the one who was able, you need to watch the movie to see that. He was the only one who was able, without a gun with him, to save more than 75 soldiers. Because what happened is that the Japanese crew was a lot more, a higher number than the Americans, and they just attacked them. And what they did, the Americans just decided to run away. And Desmond Doss stayed there without a gun, and he was carrying on his arm each soldier that was wounded. He didn't leave the field. All his, like the ones that was not wounded, everybody left. He was the only one, and until he was listening, someone talking, and oh, this guy is alive, until he was able to save the very last one, he didn't leave the field. It's unbelievable. So he carried everyone and took to a safe place, and then go back there and carry another one. And it's interesting because afterwards, he survived, and then he received awarded from the country afterwards. And they asked him how come he was able to do that, and he said, oh, every time, everyone that I saved, I asked God, oh, give me the energy and the power to go there and save one more. So, and they were all wounded, all almost dying in the field, but if they were with their eyes open, or able to talk, said, I can save this guy. And that's what he did without any gun. It was unbelievable. So it's very inspirational, and it's actually, for me, it's a very good example to be related to this parable, right? Because it's very easy for us just not to do anything. And who I put myself in such a threatening situation that I could easily lose my life, right? Just to help the others, right? But he made that choice, and at the end, I'm sure that he will receive the compensation from God from that. And this was one of his quotes. The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. And that's exactly what he believed. He truly believed on that, right? He was a very skinny guy. You cannot, it's unbelievable. When we see, he doesn't have he was not, his physics, his body was not strong, and he didn't want to use guns. So, you look at him, everyone was laughing at him initially. How come? What are you doing here? And he was able to do so much, a lot more than the other ones that was stronger and have a gun with them. So he was able to show that what you need to succeed is love. You don't need guns, you don't need power, like muscle power. You need love inside you, right? And when you have love inside you and faith, God will help with the other things. And that's exactly what happened, right? And that's exactly what he did, and what the parables tell us to do. Do your part, do your job, and God will help with the rest. Because he's always there. He's always there. He will not. He's not crossing his arm and looking at you, suffering and being more and more frustrated. Right? Actually, what he wants from you is your action, because all the rest will be in his hands. But he cannot do anything if you don't do the first step. Right? And here, the last one is also a very inspirational example for me. I think most of you, if not all of you, know about this girl. You might not know the whole history, but probably remember from the news. It was around 2012, I think. So Malala is a Pakistani girl born in 1997 who was shot by a Taliban man just because she wanted to go to school. And she was the ones who was defending that girls and boys should have the same opportunity for education. Because at that time, the Taliban put a rule in Pakistan that girls shouldn't go to school. And she was defending through the internet and everything. She had a blog and she was speaking out. And also on that day, she decided to go to school, and because of all her actions and all her work in trying in her fight in getting equal opportunities for boys and girls, she was a target for the Taliban, and they went to her school bus, called her name, the guy called her name and shoot her 4 times. So she was shot in the head, in the shoulder, and somewhere in her body that I don't remember. And she survived. So they started the first treatment in that city in Pakistan, and many countries offered help. So at the end, she was they flight her to UK, and she received all the treatment there. So she required craniotomies, like to open her head because she was shot in the head and everything, and she fully recovered. Obviously, because God was there, right? And then they say she was doing her action, so she doesn't need to care because God will take care of the rest that was not under her control. And she fully recovered. She just had some, I would even say deficiencies, but some sequela in her face, and also one of the ears. She lost, she needed to go to a surgery because she lost hearing in one of the ears. But she is still fighting, and she created an organization for that. There's a fundraising and everything. She's still working actively to help the little girls to get opportunity for education. And I just got in the news that she was accepted in Oxford University for a degree, which is amazing. So here's one of her quotes. "One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world." So those are the talents that we receive, right? But if you don't use them, you cannot change the world, right? So those, like a child, a teacher, a book, a pen, all of us have that, right? Like you have, that's all you need. That's the only thing you need. You don't need too much, right? And you can change the world. We human beings don't realize how great God is. He has given us an extraordinary brain and a sensitive, loving heart. He has blessed us with 2 lips to talk and express our feelings, 2 eyes which see a world of colors and beauty, 2 feet which walk on the road of life, 2 hands to work for us, and 2 ears to hear the words of love. As I found with my ear, no one knows how much power they have in their each and every organ until they lose one. So, in other words, she was telling us, you do have everything you need. You do have everything you need. You don't need too much. Actually, the only thing you need to act and do something is to be alive, right? So, and that's also another way to reassess what you have done, do your own reflection about what you have done in your own life and how you criticize things. And sometimes some people criticize, oh, but I'm in a family that's my dad, he's an alcoholic, he comes every day at home and do some violence, like, and they beat my mom, and my mom is also drug addict, and so on. How come I can do something of my life? But you forgot that actually you already receive what you need. That is your life. You are already born. So you always need to be grateful for your parents, regardless of what they are, because they gave you the only thing you need to succeed. That is your life. All the rest is on you to start to act, do something, because God will be there to help you with the rest. Right? So, and then she also said, I told myself, Malala, you have already faced death. This is your second life, so don't be afraid. If you are afraid, you can't move forward. In other words, don't be the third servant. The third servant was afraid to lose the only talent he received, right? So he decided to dig a hole and hid that, because it's easy like that. I'm afraid, I'm scared, I just stay the way I am. So, but if you don't act, if you don't move, if you don't do something, you cannot move forward, you cannot progress. So when you don't choose, as I said, life will choose for you. At the end, you will achieve God's plan for you, but the journey can be a lot harder and a lot more painful. Jesus asked you to act. God does not require success. He requires action. And failure is not a problem, because that's how we learn. So I encourage you to make a list of your fears and transform them into action with faith and love. You never see a father punishing a child because they fall when they are trying, like when they are learning to walk, right? What actually a father do? What actually we did with our kids? We go there and we give them a hand and bring them up and said, okay, let's try again, right? And that's exactly what God do with us. He will never punish you if you decide to do some action and if you fail. But it will be very hard to get his help if you don't do anything, if you just cross your arm, right? God offers you talents for you to overcome anguish, despair, the challenges at work, the challenges at home, the challenges at life, and so on. But the only way that you can allow your light to shine is if you say yes to God and start to do something, right? And multiply your talents. Okay, I think that's it. That's what I'm trying to give you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joyce.
You're welcome.
We do have a question actually from the internet from our friend Alessandra. A big hug to you, Alessandra. We all miss you here. And Alessandra's question is, can we consider our reincarnation as our talent?
For sure, because that's the big opportunity, right? As I said, even if you don't have anything, like if you think you don't have anything, let's say you don't see yourself as a special, you don't like, but you, as Malala was saying, you have a brain, you have your arms, you have your eyes, you have your body, right? So that's the major opportunity for you. So reincarnation is actually the best opportunity for you to put everything that you learn into action, right? So that's the best talent. So you don't need anything else. You just need life. You just need to be born and to be here to start to act.
Thanks for the question, Alessandra. Any other questions here in the room before we adjourn? Any more questions, Otto? All right, so thank you so much, Joyce. Thank you very much. Use your talent.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who followed this lecture with us on Facebook or Fab TV. I also want to give a heads up to everyone here that we are going to prepare for the passes. For those who are coming here and don't know what the passes is, if you remember the stories about Jesus imposing his hands for curing, it's what the mediums do, transferring the energies from the good spirits as an energy transfusion. No one touches anyone. If you are not comfortable with it and if you don't want to receive the passes, just tell one of the mediums. No one is required to, so it's optional. Okay. And again, have a great week, everyone who is watching us online. Thank you very much.